Guys, I got this new camera. Look at it. Oh my gosh. Isn't it so great? I'm very excited. I feel so profesh now. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're starting another reading vlog. So this week's reading vlog...
Hello, puppy. Hello.
So this week's reading vlog, I am reading fantasy romance books, and it's mostly being centered around this book right here, From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm buddy reading this with some friends on Instagram, and I am really excited to see if it lives up to the hype. So I've already started reading this. I am actually on page 170, I'm on chapter 10. And this is a very big book. And I just want to briefly talk about my feelings about this book so far. So I went into this book with high expectations. I also expect to be critical of this book because it is so very hyped and so many people have given this 5 stars and think it's wonderful. Jennifer L. Armentrout is one of my favorite authors, so I am definitely expecting a masterpiece. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. So I have tried to read this twice before and have never made it past the first chapter. So this time, because we had a buddy read, and me and my friend Alicia, I'll link her Instagram down below, we decided to read this together, and then we opened it up on Instagram and found some other girls who wanted to read it with us, and if I did not have the accountability of this buddy read, I likely would have DNF'd this book, because the first chapter is really hard to get into. It's very info dumpy. It's very long. It's very boring. And I feel like that is something that a lot of new fantasy authors can do. And I know that this is Jennifer L. Armentrout's first foray into high fantasy, where I feel like most of her other books are either contemporary or they're in an urban fantasy setting, but this one she's building the entire world from scratch, and so I can see that she's trying to lay the foundation and get everyone accustomed to this new world and the terminology, but it definitely feels just like all of the info is just dumped in all at once, and it's hard to read, it's slow, it's boring. If I did not know that Jennifer L. Armentrout can create such wonderful stories, fast-paced plots you can't put down, absolutely compelling, and hot romances, I probably would have DNF'd this, because that first chapter, it was a 0 out of 10. Except for the ending. The ending was good. And even up until, I feel like, maybe chapter 4, chapter 5, it was still pretty slow, and there was still quite a lot of just info dumping, just unnecessary information. And I feel like part of that is hindered also because this is written in first person. And I feel like when you have the freedom of a third person narration, then you are able to look at things more objectively and not have to get every bit of story from the narrator itself. So I feel like a book like this really would have benefited from not being written in first person. And I honestly don't know if Jennifer L. Armentrout has ever written anything that's not in first person. This is first person past, which I prefer. First person present drives me nuts. I don't like reading that much. But I think that if this had been written in third person, it wouldn't have felt so info dumpy right at the beginning. So being this far into it, I'm definitely starting to feel the plot pick up. I feel like we're starting to understand more of the side characters. I still don't really know what the overarching plot is, and we're still just kind of setting the stage. And I honestly feel like that's quite a lot to ask for being 170 pages in. I also don't feel a great connection to Poppy, our main character. So if you don't know what this book is about, I realize I didn't summarize it for you. So this book follows Poppy, who is known as the Maiden. So she can't be looked upon, spoken to, touched. She has to just remain pure, and like she wears a mask and goes, nobody sees her, nobody touches her, nobody talks to her. She does have a power where she can feel the pain of others, both physical, emotional, mental, and she can take that pain away, which is really pretty interesting, and I think that's pretty cool. There are also creatures that are in this world. Some of them seem to be, like I said, at this point, I don't quite know exactly what's happening. Some of them seem to be vampires as we would know them, and some of them seem to be sort of like a variation of vampires. We also have Hawk is, I believe, the male lead, and he, I'm thinking, is going to be one of Poppy's guards, and they've had a very brief interaction at this point. So I don't necessarily feel a connection to Poppy. I feel very removed from her. I feel like we're seeing things happen to her, and we're not seeing a lot of action on her part yet. And I know that Jennifer Armentrout will fix that. It's just really early in the book. Overall, I am liking it. I'm not loving it. I'm not feeling like it's a book I can't put down. I know it will get that way because I know JLA's writing. But right now, I just sort of feel like take it or leave it, you know? So, like I said, if I had never read a Jennifer L. Armentrout book before, I probably would have DNF'd this because it really isn't catching my interest that much. So, that's where we're at so far. I'm gonna keep reading this, and then I will update you guys later. Well, let's update. So, I'm on chapter 15, page 235 of a 600-page book, 613 pages, and I am liking it better than last time I updated you, but I'm still not loving it. And honestly, I feel like if I'm not loving a book at this point, it's not going to be a 5-star read. So I'm really honestly pretty confused about all the 5-star ratings that I've seen for this book so far, because while I am enjoying it, it's definitely not a favorite of mine, and I certainly don't feel like really invested in like I'm loving it. It's still moving slowly, and a lot of times I can forgive a slow-moving plot if I feel like it's still doing something to move the story along. If it's showing us more character interaction or more character development, I can forgive a slow-moving plot because I really love character-driven books, but that's not what this is. This is not a character-driven book at all. This is definitely a plot-based book, and at this point, the plot is sorely lacking. I still am really confused about what is even a maiden gonna do? What is the ascension? Like, I feel like I'm missing a lot of information, but at the same time, I feel like I'm sort of overloaded with meaningless information. And maybe I will come back and eat my words and be like, all that stuff that I said was meaningless really showed that it was important, you know? I mean, that could happen because we still have 2/3 of this book to read, but at this point, I'm really just not loving it, honestly. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a 5-star read. It's not worth the hype at this point. I am enjoying it. I know there's gonna be something that I'm really gonna like, but I just haven't got there yet, and at this point, I don't know, man. It's just that I'm just so curious to know what that is that people like about this so much that's keeping me reading it, honestly. And our buddy read, of course. Like, that's keeping me accountable. But it's mostly just the curiosity to see what is it that makes people rate this so highly, and what is it that makes them give it 5 stars. Like, to get me to go through 230 pages with hardly any interaction between the romantic couple and really very little plot development, I mean, like, it's gotta be big. It's going to have to be big. So at this point, if it continues like this is a 2-star read for me, which is a 2-star read is a book that I don't recommend. It's not terrible, it's not problematic, it's just not fun and not a good read, you know? So, I keep reading this. I'll update you later. Alright, it happened. I finally reached the point where I feel like I'm hooked. So, I'm on chapter 24. So, I'm about halfway into this. And about chapter 20 is when things finally started picking up. I feel like the pace, and I don't know if pace is even the right word, because it really isn't pacing so much as it is you're getting more character interaction. Like, you're getting more scenes with Poppy and Hawk, so the love interest, the sexual tension is there, the chemistry is happening, and I am here for it. This is what I want. This is what I signed up for when I read a Jennifer L. Armentrout book, is I want that sharp chemistry between the characters, and it's finally happening. It's still pretty slow moving, that part, and the plot is really dragging. Like, the plot is still slow, but I mean, do I need a fast plot when I have spicy character interaction between the love interests? Not really, no. No, what I really need is like I can get behind books that are more character development than plot development, but this doesn't have a lot of character development at all. I feel like Poppy is still very, very generic, and we don't really know her a lot, so I'm really excited to see more about Poppy. I really want her to be a more complex character, and at this point I feel like she's really very just a blank slate, and I'm not really vibing with that, because that's not what Jennifer Armentrout's female characters are like. You know, they're very strong, they're very snarky, they're very opinionated, and Poppy is very quiet, and I don't know, like she just lets things happen to her, and I don't like that. And I just feel like I'm sorry, I space out sometimes when I'm talking. I just need more character development on Poppy. And I need more plot from JLA to give this a 5-star. But I am starting to get the chemistry and the sexual tension between the characters, so that, I like that. That's good. But yeah, so it's getting good. It's getting really good. I ended up getting the audiobook because I just feel like I gotta get through this, man. Like, if I don't read this, I don't want to spend all week reading this, you know? It is a big book, but I'm ready to either get invested or to just get it done. So that's why I got the audiobook. And I really like the narrator. It's really good. So if you can do this on audio, I would highly recommend it, because I think that would make the first half of this book much, much more enjoyable. And that's something else I wanted to talk about. So a half, literally 300 pages of this book was just very dull, very dull. And I don't know. I know that more is coming. I know it. I know there's a cliffhanger in here. And I'm excited about this now. I'll admit, I am excited. Have I forgiven her for the first 300 pages? No. It's not getting a 5-star. It's just not. There's no way. Like, even A House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, which I love. I love that book. I adore it. I think it's wonderful. I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars for that exact reason, that it was just too slow, you know? So it's interesting that these two authors are both new to building their own fantasy world in its entirety, and I sort of feel like what we have here in the first half of this is really, it feels really like exploratory writing. Like, she's trying to write stuff out so she knows the world, but we don't need to know all of that. And so I feel like the first half of this could be cut down a lot. Am I still a Jennifer L. Armentrout fan? Absolutely. Forever. I love her. I love her books. Am I slightly disappointed with the first 300 pages of this book? Yes, I am. Do I think she'll make up for it? I know she will. Am I going to give it a 5-star? I mean, I'm not going to tell the future, but probably not, because it's going to have to really blow me away. And I know she can, but I don't see it being higher than a 4. I hope it's a 4-star read. If the rest of the book is fantastic, I think this will be a 4-star read. But that first 300 pages, I just can't. No, it's not a 5 for me. Anyway. Alright, I just wanted to share that with you, that I finally am interested in it now, 300 pages into this. So, if you are a former JLA fan and you've read all of her books, this is really not anything like any of her other books that I've read. And I feel like there are some scenes where she gives Poppy a little bit of a modern feel, modern speak, and it doesn't really jive with the tone of the rest of the book. And that is, it's not really like pulls you out of the story, but it just kind of like jolts you, like, that sounds different, you know, just because I don't feel like when she has the Duke and the Duchess and the like royalty, they have a very archaic almost way of speaking, and Poppy and her group of characters really don't talk like that at all. So that's kind of a weird dichotomy that I don't love. But anyway, I'm just really trying to pick this apart for you guys because I really, yeah, I'm into it now. I definitely am into it. I don't know. I'm really, really, really curious now to see if I feel like that ending is enough to live up to the hype. We shall see. Also, I got a package of Lush stuff. So I'm going to do a quick little Lush haul. These are all just bath bombs, which are my favorite things. So let's do a haul. I fell in love with Lush like 2 years ago is when I first found out about it. So I usually try to keep a supply of bath bombs, but 2020, I run out of them. This is my favorite one, the intergalactic one. Isn't it so cool? It's glittery too. I don't actually know what this one is. This is new to me. There we go. It smells very limey, which I am a fan of. I don't remember what this one is called. But that's a new one. This is one of my favorites too, the Comforter. It makes your bathwater so pink and like creamy. And I love it. Some of them are sad. I don't know why they do that. Geode. That's a fun one. It's cool. It's mostly just gold pop rocks and graphite, which is this nice one. I got gold plated stuff. Goddess, my favorite. This one smells sort of lavendery. It has the best smell. And this makes your bathwater so milky and creamy and, I don't know, milky, that's kind of a gross word. It's just so soothing. I love it. Oh, yes, this one. Melusine. I love this one too. It's the bag. This one reminds me of a mermaid because it has like scales. And it makes the tub water so green and glittery. It's perfect. Well, that's my Lush haul. Hope you liked it. Okay, so I just finished chapter 26. Spoilers for this part. There will be spoilers spoilers. So, I just finished reading chapter 26. When I last updated you, I was at like around chapter 20 and things were just starting to pick up and really get interesting and good. And now things have just reached an epic level. So chapter 26, when we see Victor die and we see Poppy just really just like all of the emotions she's been feeling from the beginning of the book, like even though she didn't show it and she didn't really talk about it, you saw a little bit of that just before the scene happened when Victor catches her with Hawk, when she is just so frustrated and so angry and just kind of has all that like on the surface. And then when Victor dies, it's just like all of that just like explodes, and it was just such a good scene, and I was so happy that she did what she did to Lord Mazine. I mean, it shouldn't be because it was pretty gruesome, but at the same time, that guy got what he deserved, and I was so glad. I just feel like it was such a great scene. It was so powerful. It was just, this is what I signed up for. This is the JLA I've been wanting. This is what it took me 400 pages. 400 pages to get to that. It was good, man. Was it worth 400 pages? I don't know. Still not going to be higher than a 4 because 400 pages is a long dang time to wait to get what I've been promised, So, 200 pages left. 200-ish pages left. 200 pages left. That was a good scene. Okay, spoilers are over. Well, I finished it. I finally finished it. Took me all week to read, but what the heck is up with my hair? Don't mind me. I just barely finished this book and came right away to give you guys my thoughts. And I feel very conflicted about this book. I feel very conflicted about how to rate this accurately because I definitely feel like the last half of this book, and especially the last third, were night and day different from the first half of the book. They were so much more enjoyable. The pace was so much more faster. And I don't necessarily need the pace to be faster, you know, but like I said before, I need either really great character development, I need either really great relationship building, or even, fantasy world building, or something. And I just feel like the first half of this book in particular was so lacking in that department. It was just, it really didn't have any of that, you know, or not any. It had very little of that. Not enough for how long that it was, you know, like I feel like if you are reading 400 pages and you're just not getting any of that, like that's not a 5-star read for me. So the last half of this book, the last third, I really enjoyed. I loved the relationship with Poppy and Hawk. I felt like it was very good, very spicy, much like, very, 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 that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. That is what I read JLA for, is her character, is her relationships, and I loved it. Loved it. It was so good. But there were a few things with the plot in particular that were very predictable, were very easy to see what was going to happen, and I don't know if that's because I've read all of her books, basically, and I know her pattern, or if it was because of our group buddy read when there were a few girls in there who predicted it. I think Dana specifically predicted what was going to happen in the ending of this book, and she was totally right. I predicted what was going to happen to a certain character early on, and I was right. And you know, I definitely don't feel like I always need to be outguessed in a book for me to enjoy the plot. So, yeah, but the thing that I loved the most about this was absolutely the romance. It was wonderful. It was very good. I just wish there was more of it throughout the book. I wish that there was more of a build-up, you know, more, because it happens quickly and then it's also like over quickly. So the romance portion of this is not really a lot, and I wish there was more. Honestly, that's what I wanted. I wanted more of the romance. I don't know. I think I give this a 3 stars. A 3.5. Probably a 3. I think it's a 3. It's a 3-star read for me. It was good. I liked it. It was enjoyable. I would recommend this to people who want a really spicy romance in their fantasy books. I would not recommend this to someone who wants a really well-done fantasy novel. I just can't really get over how different the first half of this is from the last half. It honestly feels like it was just written by 2 completely different people. And the thing that I feel like bothered me kind of the most about this is the last half, the last third. You really get Jennifer's signature writing style. It's very quick, it's very fast-paced, there's a lot of banter between the characters, there's a ton of sexual tension, it's, you know, fast-moving plot with reveals all over the place, and I love that. And the first half of the book, you don't really have any of that, you know, and I feel like the first half of the book really feels like she's trying out a different writing style, and I don't want to penalize her for that, because I feel like authors should definitely be able to grow and evolve their writing styles and really sort of stretch themselves, and I like that. I just sort of feel like the mashup between the first writing style and the second part, and it's not split up into parts. I'm just using that as my demarcation point because I feel like they were just so very different. I just feel like when when you combine those two, it really, honestly, it just didn't work in this book for me because it just felt out of place. So, I feel like we learn more about Poppy in the last third of this book and who she is and what her motivations are and how she responds to things than we ever did in the first half of the book. Jennifer's known for that like witty dialogue and that sharpness between her characters and that sort of banter, and the first half of the book is such a like an archaic setting, and they have very antiquated ways of speaking and behaviors that they do, and every so often she would throw in a little bit of her signature style of dialogue or writing or thought process, and it just sort of was like it was a little bit of a jolt because you weren't expecting that, and it didn't really seem to mesh up. So, but I applaud her for trying a new writing style. I just like I said it before earlier, I just feel like this book was too long. It was way too long. It needed to be cut down a lot, and yeah, that first half is rough. So, do I feel like this book lives up to the hype? That's hard. I feel like the romance does. I just wish there were more of it. But I feel like what we get definitely lives up to the hype. Do I feel like the plot and the whole concept of the book, does it live up to the hype? I don't think so. I just feel like it's very, I don't know. I don't really feel like it does live up to the hype for me personally. I think that if you are, sort of looking to get started reading her, I don't even know if I would recommend this. I guess I would, but I would maybe caution and say, the first half is a little bit slow, maybe try the audiobook. I think the audiobook is really the way to go with this. It's just so long, and there are parts that are just they just drag on for so long that I think the audiobook is really the best way to consume this particular book. The audio narrator is great too. So I don't know. I don't feel like it lives up to the hype. I don't hate it, that's for sure. I think there are a lot of good things here. I just feel like, for me, it was just average. It was okay. I did really enjoy the end, but does that make up for the rest of it? Not really. I don't think so. So, yeah. This reading vlog has come to an end. I had planned to read more fantasy romance this week, but this was pretty much all I got to. I did end up reading the second book in the Immortals After Dark series by Kresley Cole, No Rest for the Wicked. Absolutely loved that. Kind of wish I had included vlogging that, but I thought I would stick to just fantasy romance, and that's more of like a paranormal romance, but it's a vampire romance. This is a vampire romance, and No Rest for the Wicked was so good. 4 out of 5 stars. Fantastic. If you haven't read that series, you need to check it out because it's so good. So, yeah. We'll see. I'm not sure when I'm going to pick the second book up next. I may wait a little bit. I sort of feel like I need a bit of a palate cleanser, something a little lighter, more fast-paced, maybe something a little funny, definitely something romantic, and yeah, I need something before I go on to the second book, but I am very interested to read the next book. I really feel like the next book is going to be great. I just sort of feel like it's going to be, because this definitely feels like she was trying to find her way with writing this new world, and by the end I feel like she got it, So I definitely am excited to pick up the next book. I think it's going to be good. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this book. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you've read this and what your thoughts on it. If you feel like the hype was deserved, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.